At a small airport located 90 miles east of Los Angeles, Chris Grube conducts his pre-flight checks on his replica Fokker Dr1 triplane. It is an exact reproduction of the aircraft made famous by German World War I fighter ace Manfred von Richthofen, known as the Red Baron, who earned over 80 kills in a Dr1. The only changes made to this version over the original are a modern engine, a tail wheel for landing on paved runways, and equipment required for flying in the United States.
Good to go.
The Dr1 was the most maneuverable aircraft flown during World War I and was feared by pilots that flew against it in combat. Chris tells us more about his Dr1 and its flying qualities.
The aircraft took 15 years to make. This was a joint project between my father and I. It started off with obviously the purchase of a set of plans, which were in themselves difficult to obtain. Essentially they were German blueprints which were translated to English. My father and I built this over the course of 15 years of weekends and days off, vacations. There's approximately over 4,000 parts, alone wooden parts in the wings. My father made all of those. He's essentially responsible for all three wings. We decided to go with a modern Lycoming 0360 engine as opposed to the original Oberussel 110 horsepower rotary engine for safety and reliability's sake. The original engines would now be 100 years old. So for safety's sake, we're using the Lycoming. I'm often asked about why the three wings. The concept came about because the increase in need for maneuverability in 1917. Keep in mind it was an arms race, and the aircraft that was the most maneuverable at that time was the one that won the dogfight. The aircraft is a legendary aircraft, and there's quite a lot of mythology surrounding the machine, particularly when it pertains to its maneuverability. Most of these myths are true. The aircraft is incredibly maneuverable and incredibly unstable. There is no dihedral in the wings. There is no lateral longitudinal stability at all. If one were to take their hands off the controls, this aircraft would literally turn itself inside out. The aircraft is very difficult to land. The tendency for the aircraft is to lose all directional control once the tail wheel starts to come down. There is a dead zone of controllability between the 2-point level position and the 3-point when the aircraft tail is actually on the ground. There is no control. So this aircraft is a ground looper. The wingtips actually were installed with wingtip skids. The reason for that was so that the aircraft, when it would dip a wing during a ground loop, to protect the internal components of the wings. So this aircraft, once again, is a very difficult aircraft to land. One of the unusual things about the Fokker triplane was the all-flying rudder. This particular rudder has no stabilization at all. There is no vertical stabilizer. On normal airplanes, what you would see is a fixed vertical portion on the front portion of the movable rudder. And this is to stabilize the aircraft in the lateral configuration. This, since being a full flying rudder, there is no lateral stability. This rudder wants to do whatever it wants to do, go wherever it wants to go. The only thing keeping the aircraft stable in yaw is the pilot and his rudder work. So that was one of the unusual things about the comma-shaped rudder. It was designed, again, like the rest of this aircraft, for strictly one purpose, and that was to make this the ultimate dogfighter, the most maneuverable machine in the air, and it was in 1917. Another interesting thing about the Fokker triplane is the lower subwing, which actually is between the landing gear. That actually technically makes this aircraft a quadruplane instead of a triplane. The purpose of the lower wing was to be able to lift the total weight of itself plus the wheels plus the landing gear struts, so that the aircraft didn't feel the weight at all of its landing gear and produce additional lift. There are approximately 350 of these made in 1917. The genesis of the aircraft was the observation of a British triplane. The British developed a triplane prototype. Yeah, the Germans thought that was a pretty effective design and decided to replicate that design. In all reality, the aircraft is substantially a different aircraft than the British Sopwith triplane. Much smaller, much more maneuverable. Several frontline famous aces flew this aircraft. Of course, the most notable being Manfred von Richthofen, which was the famous Red Baron, as well as Werner Voss, who was also a competitive fighter pilot at the time. And this aircraft right here is painted up in the colors of the Red Baron, hence the red color.
The DR1 was the center of attention at the 2013 Apple Valley Air Show. Aviation photographers from all over Southern California waited at dawn to shoot pictures of this rare aircraft. With the 100th anniversary of World War I in 2014, Chris hopes there will be a renewed interest in World War I aircraft at air shows. With the dedication and skill of a father and son team, an historic aircraft that proved the importance of air power flies again in the skies above Southern California.